The kiss that saved her life wasn't supposed to happen. As Marcus pressed his lips against Eliza's, performing CPR while her limousine burned behind them, he had no idea this desperate act would entangle their worlds forever. If you've ever wondered whether fate exists, this story might just convince you. Before you continue watching, hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories that prove reality is often more surprising than fiction. Marcus Reynolds checked his rearview mirror for the 100th time that evening, his calloused fingers drumming nervously on the steering wheel. The rain pounded against the windshield of his 10-year-old sedan, making the neon lights of downtown blur into watercolor streaks. He was already running late for his night shift, and Lily's babysitter had given him that look again, the one that silently judged his constant struggle to balance work and single fatherhood. His daughter had clung to his leg, begging him not to go, and the memory of her tear-streaked face haunted him as he navigated through the slick streets. 3 miles across town, Eliza Harrington stared out the tinted windows of her custom Bentley limousine, feeling nothing but emptiness despite being heir to one of the largest fortunes in the country. The charity gala had been like all the others, air kisses, champagne flutes, and conversations so shallow they barely disturbed the surface of her existence. At 32, she had everything money could buy and nothing that truly mattered. Her phone buzzed with another message from her father's assistant, reminding her about tomorrow's board meeting. She didn't bother to respond. The universe has strange ways of bringing people together. That night, it chose a rain-slicked intersection, a truck driver who'd fallen asleep at the wheel, and a traffic light that changed a second too soon. Marcus was the first to see it happen, the massive delivery truck barreling through the red light, slamming into the side of the elegant black Bentley, sending it spinning across the intersection before it crashed into a concrete barrier and erupted into flames. Without thinking, Marcus abandoned his car in the middle of the road and ran toward the wreckage. The chauffeur was unconscious but breathing, slumped over the steering wheel. In the back, a woman in an evening gown lay motionless, blood trickling from a gash on her forehead. The doors were jammed, the flames growing higher by the second. Marcus smashed the window with his elbow, ignoring the glass that cut into his skin, and pulled the woman free just as the fire reached the gas tank. He dragged her to safety seconds before the explosion lit up the night sky. She wasn't breathing. Panic surged through him as he remembered the CPR course he'd taken when Lily was born. Tilting her head back, pinching her nose, he pressed his mouth to hers and breathed life back into her lungs. 1 breath, 2 breaths. Compressions. Again and again until finally, she gasped and coughed, her eyes fluttering open to meet his. "You're okay," he whispered, rain mingling with tears of relief on his face. "You're going to be okay." What Marcus didn't know then was that someone had captured the entire rescue on their phone. By morning, the video had gone viral, the ordinary man in a worn jacket saving the life of Eliza Harrington, billionaire heiress to the Harrington media empire. The headlines all focused on the same moment, the kiss that saved her life. Eliza woke up in the hospital with no memory of the accident. Her father, Richard Harrington, a man who controlled news outlets across the globe but couldn't remember his daughter's birthday, sat stiffly beside her bed. He showed her the video on his tablet, his expression unreadable as always. "The board thinks we should capitalize on this," he said, as if her near-death experience was merely a marketing opportunity. "The public loves this sort of thing. Ordinary hero saves billionaire heiress. We could use some positive press after the layoffs last quarter." Eliza stared at the screen, watching as the stranger breathed life back into her body. Something stirred within her, a feeling she couldn't name. "Who is he?" she asked. Finding Marcus proved surprisingly difficult, even for someone with Eliza's resources. He hadn't stayed for the ambulance or the reporters. He'd simply disappeared back into the night after ensuring the chauffeur was being cared for. It took 3 days of searching before Eliza's private investigator located him, a 34-year-old single father working 3 jobs to make ends meet. A former architectural engineer who'd given up his career to raise his daughter after his wife died during childbirth 5 years ago. Marcus was changing a flat tire on his sedan when a black SUV pulled up beside him. He straightened, wiping grease from his hands onto his jeans, as Eliza stepped out. She looked different from the unconscious woman he'd pulled from the wreckage, more composed, more guarded, but with the same vulnerability in her eyes. "You disappeared," she said simply. Marcus shrugged, suddenly self-conscious of his oil-stained clothes and the shabby apartment building behind him. "I had to get to work. And then pick up my daughter from the sitter. You saved my life. Anyone would have done the same." Eliza shook her head. "No, they wouldn't have. Trust me, I know people. Most would have taken a video like everyone else did." The awkward silence that followed was broken by a small voice calling from the apartment building's entrance. "Daddy! Is the car fixed yet? We're gonna be late for my recital." Lily bounded down the steps, her ballet tutu bouncing with each movement. She stopped short when she saw Eliza, her eyes widening. "You're pretty," she said with a child's directness. "Are you Daddy's friend?" That unexpected meeting changed everything. Eliza, moved by Marcus's humility and charmed by Lily's innocence, found herself accepting an invitation to a 5-year-old's ballet recital. Sitting in the back of the community center auditorium, watching Lily's enthusiastic if uncoordinated performance, Eliza experienced something she hadn't felt in years: genuine joy. For Marcus, having Eliza Harrington at his daughter's recital was surreal. He noticed how she clapped the loudest when Lily took her bow, how she seemed genuinely interested when his daughter showed off her participation certificate afterward. There was none of the condescension he'd expected from someone of her status, just authentic warmth that made him see beyond the headlines about the cold, calculating Harrington heiress. What began as gratitude evolved into friendship, and then into something deeper. Eliza found herself drawn to Marcus's world, a world where dinner meant macaroni and cheese eaten at a small kitchen table while Lily recounted her day in elaborate detail. Where success was measured not in stock prices but in a child's laughter. Marcus, in turn, discovered that beneath Eliza's polished exterior was a woman longing for authenticity in a life dictated by expectations and appearances. Their growing connection didn't go unnoticed. Richard Harrington summoned Eliza to his office, the wall of monitors behind his desk displaying various news sites, all featuring pictures of his daughter with the driver, as he called Marcus. "This has gone on long enough," he said coldly. "The publicity served its purpose. The company's approval ratings are up. It's time to end this little, whatever it is." Eliza felt something snap inside her. "It's not a publicity stunt, Father. He's a good man. He and Lily, they make me happy." Richard's laugh was devoid of humor. "Happy? What does that have to do with anything? You have responsibilities to this family, to this company. I've arranged for you to have dinner with James Whitmore's son next week. His family's shipping empire would make an excellent addition to our holdings." For the first time in her life, Eliza stood her ground against her father. "No. I'm not a commodity you can trade for business advantages. Not anymore." The battle lines were drawn. Richard Harrington was not a man accustomed to defiance, especially from his own daughter. When threats to cut off her inheritance failed to sway Eliza, he resorted to more underhanded tactics. Suddenly, Marcus found himself facing an audit from the IRS. The garage where he worked part-time mysteriously lost its lease. The scholarship program that helped pay for Lily's school withdrew its support due to budget constraints. Eliza was furious when she realized what her father was doing. "He's trying to break you because he can't control me," she told Marcus one evening as they sat on the fire escape outside his apartment, watching the sunset paint the city skyline in shades of gold and pink. Marcus took her hand, his expression troubled. "Maybe he's right, Eliza. Look at our worlds. They're completely different. What can I possibly offer someone like you?" "Everything that matters," she whispered, leaning her head against his shoulder. "You showed me what it means to live with purpose, to put someone else's needs before your own. You and Lily gave me a glimpse of what family really means. But the pressure continued to mount. Tabloids began publishing stories questioning Marcus's motives, suggesting he was after Eliza's fortune. Old acquaintances sold fabricated stories about his past. The final blow came when Marcus learned that Lily's teacher had been instructed to document any signs of neglect that could be used in a potential custody battle, a thinly veiled threat that left him terrified. One rainy night, so similar to the one when they first met, Marcus made the hardest decision of his life. "We need to end this," he told Eliza, his voice breaking. "I can't risk losing Lily. And you're losing everything because of me." Eliza felt as if she were drowning, gasping for air that wouldn't come. "Don't you understand? Without you and Lily, everything else is meaningless. My father can take the money, the company, all of it. I don't care." "But I care," Marcus said gently. "I care that you're being forced to choose between your family legacy and us. That's not fair to you." The separation was agony for both of them. Eliza threw herself into work, taking on projects that kept her too busy to think, too exhausted to feel. Marcus worked extra shifts, focusing all his energy on giving Lily the stability she needed. But the light had gone out of both their lives. It was Lily who refused to accept the situation. "Why is Eliza gone?" she asked repeatedly, her small face solemn with confusion. "She made you smile, Daddy. You don't smile anymore." 3 months after their separation, Eliza sat in yet another board meeting, listening to her father discuss the latest acquisition target, a small but innovative architectural firm that had developed a revolutionary sustainable building material. Something about the presentation caught her attention. "The patent holder is reluctant to sell," her father was saying. "But everyone has a price. We'll find his." Eliza studied the blueprints projected on the screen, recognizing the distinctive style immediately. "Who designed this?" she asked, interrupting her father mid-sentence. The presenter looked uncomfortable. The original concept was created by Marcus Reynolds before he left the industry. His former partners have continued to develop it. The revelation hit Eliza like a thunderbolt. The sustainable building material, it was Marcus's creation, his dream. The one he'd abandoned to care for Lily when his wife died. And now her father was planning to take that too. Something shifted inside Eliza in that moment. All her life, she'd been taught that power came from control, from bending others to your will. But true strength, she realized, came from standing up for what was right, even when it cost you everything. She stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the polished floor. "This meeting is over," she announced. Her father's face darkened with anger. "Sit down, Eliza. You're making a scene." "No, father. I'm making a choice." She turned to address the board members directly. "For years, we've built this company by taking companies, taking ideas, taking lives and reshaping them to serve our purposes. I've been complicit in that. But not anymore." She walked out of the boardroom, ignoring her father's threats, and went straight to her office. There, she made a series of calls that would change everything, to her lawyer, to the press, to the executives she knew she could trust. By evening, she had set in motion a plan that would transform Harrington Media from within. It took 6 weeks of intense legal battles, shareholder meetings, and public relations campaigns. Eliza leveraged every connection, every share of stock, every bit of goodwill she'd built over the years. In the end, she emerged as the new CEO of Harrington Media, with her father forced into retirement by a board that had finally seen the wisdom in her vision for the company's future. Her first official act as CEO was to establish the Reynolds Innovation Fund, designed to support architects and engineers developing sustainable building solutions, with Marcus's original design as its flagship project. Her second was to create a company-wide policy ensuring parents could balance work and family without sacrificing either. Only then, when she had rebuilt her world into something she could be proud of, did Eliza return to the small apartment where it had all begun. Marcus opened the door, surprise giving way to joy when he saw her standing there. "I heard about what you did," he said softly. "The whole world is talking about it." Eliza smiled, suddenly nervous. "I didn't do it for the world. I did it because it was right. And because I never stopped loving you and Lily." From inside the apartment came the sound of running feet, and then Lily was there, launching herself into Eliza's arms with a squeal of delight. "You came back. Daddy said you might someday if we wished hard enough." Over the little girl's head, Eliza's eyes met Marcus's. "I'm not asking you to fit into my world anymore," she said. "I've created a new one where we can all belong together, if that's still what you want." Marcus stepped forward, taking her free hand in his. "It's all I've ever wanted." 1 year later, Marcus stood in the center of a construction site, watching as the framework of the first Reynolds Harrington Sustainable Community Center took shape against the sky. Beside him, Eliza held Lily's hand, the little girl chattering excitedly about the playground that would be built next to the center. "Do you ever regret it?" Marcus asked quietly. "Changing everything for us?" Eliza looked at him, at the life they were building together, literally and figuratively. "I didn't change everything for you," she corrected him. "You changed me first. That night, when you gave me back my breath, you also gave me back my soul. Everything since then has just been me trying to become worthy of that gift." As the sun set behind the half-built community center, casting long shadows across the construction site, Marcus pulled Eliza close and kissed her, not to save her life this time, but to celebrate it. And Lily, never one to be left out, wrapped her arms around both their legs, completing the circle of their unlikely family. Sometimes, the most extraordinary journeys begin with a single moment of courage. For Marcus and Eliza, it was a kiss in the rain that was never meant to be romantic, a desperate act to save a life that ended up saving them both in ways neither could have imagined. Their story reminds us that true wealth isn't measured in dollars but in love, that family is defined not by blood but by choice, and that sometimes, the most unexpected connections lead to the most beautiful destinations. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring tales that remind us of the extraordinary possibilities hidden within ordinary moments. Because sometimes, the most life-changing events begin with a single act of kindness when we least expect it.